Hello, my name is Gary Moore. Thank you for watching my presentation on Chapter 10, Teaching Positive Replacement Behaviors. Some of the key terms I'm going to talk to you about was skill deficits, positive replacement behaviors, functional communication training, FCT for short, self-management, and differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, DRA for short. Now, we're going to start off with skill deficits. That's one thing that hit me real hard. A personal story that I could tell you is when I was starting this journey, becoming a teacher, coming from the military side of things, transferring over, trying to do the education. I took ADVAB tests to get my job in the military. And everybody know on the teacher side, it was the praxis. So I went ahead, took the praxis. You had 3 levels of it, the reading, writing, math. The other 2 wasn't that hard for me. I knocked those out pretty easily. But the math, I took that thing, I'll say about $400 worth. So I took it 3, 4, 5 times. I can't remember now. But I took it so many times and could not get my score high. I did tutoring. I had my son who's a straight A student in college and my daughters. I had them all trying to teach me, even my wife. Nobody could teach me these skills to pass that test. Now, they were telling me, oh, it's only 8th grade. You should be able to do it. But this is what we're going into in this lesson here, is that because I cheated my way through high school in math, and the only thing I really mastered was up to division. When it came to fractions and decimals, I know a little bit, but I really cheated my way through it. So when it came to taking this test, I went to take the test, and everything I looked at, all I've seen is just they asking what the X and the Y is, and this line. I'm like, couldn't pick it up at all. I felt kind of dumb, to tell you the truth, but then I realized that had I learned the basis of everything when I got to that point, I could understand how the tutors was trying to teach me, because they were all trying to teach me thinking that I just forgot what I've already learned, but I've never learned it. So it wasn't a matter of forgetting. I didn't know it. So if I don't know how to add, subtract, and build all up to scale, when I get up to geometry type stuff and trigonometry and calculus, I never really took all that stuff. So when I see it on the praxis, I didn't know where to begin. My son was trying to show me, but he was showing me thinking that I used to know it and just needed brushed up on, and that wasn't a thing. So getting back to what I'm teaching you here, you understand the skill deficits experienced by students. Reasons for skill acquisition failures. The student was never fluent in the skill before skill instruction was terminated. That was me. The activity was too challenging for the developmental level of the student. There was a lack of emphasis placed on promoting maintenance and generalizing during instruction. The instructor failed to employ naturally occurring reinforcement during instruction. We had real smart people in my class and people like me in my class. And the teacher always tended to go with just the smart person. So they just thought that everybody knew it because a few people was getting it. But they taught the same way. They wasn't teaching no other way back then. The skill was not functional or relevant in the life of the student. That's a big one. Inconsistent use of cues and teaching techniques were employed during instruction, resulting in a failure to develop fluency on the part of the learner. Also, communication skills deficits are also a common cause for challenging behavior among children and youth with disabilities. Now, to say all that, I just come to terms with myself because I'm an adult. I call myself mature enough to know that I know what I don't know, and I know what I know, so I don't get frustrated behind it. But students, children age, the early youth, they tend to have behavior problems when they get frustrated and they get angry and they lash out and do different things. So that's what these skills that we're talking about here. After you recognize the bad behavior, it's time to replace the bad with positive replacement behaviors that can serve as alternative responses for many reasons, including the following. Positive replacement behaviors promote the best overall interest of the student. The presence of these skills affords the student increased lifestyle options. Replacement behaviors reduce the likelihood that challenging behaviors will occur. and the development of functional replacement behaviors can lead to a greater sense of independence and self-determination on the part of the student. Had I had teachers to implement these skills to help me with my skills, I could see myself learning math a little bit easier, and as well as other subjects. I never was a angry person. I just was that type of kid that tried to play it off and fail here or just get by, and I was good with that. So let's talk about the methods behind this. Functional communication training, that was the FCT that I told you about earlier. One, teaching learners an alternative communication response that serves the same function as the problem behavior. And two, making the problem behavior non-functional for the individual. The first component of FCT is directed toward the development of new skills, and the second component is directed toward teaching the student that problem behavior no longer controls the environment and is no longer efficient in obtaining their needs. An example of how to use FCT in teaching a replacement skill would include teaching a child to communicate the need for a break, not by having a tantrum, but by using a sign or raising their hand and asking the teacher for a short break, depending on communication of the abilities of the learner. So basically, instead of recognizing a tantrum, you just want to let them know, hey, if you need a break, just the international sign, use break, and then we could talk about it, or raise your hand, and I'll let you know what you need to do to take a short break. Self-management, a cognitive behavior intervention method originally designed for teaching learners to self-direct their behavior. So that's self-management. Self-management is composed of three major types of intervention: self-monitoring, self-instruction, and self-reinforcement. Self-monitoring is directed toward teaching students to monitor their behavior, noting the occurrence or non-occurrence of the behavior through self-recording. This process is often done using some form of cue as provided by an iPad set at varying intervals and designed to deliver an auditory prompt such as a beeping sound or bell. Upon hearing the auditory cue, the student self-records the occurrence or non-occurrence of a specific target behavior with a plus sign or a negative sign on a data sheet. That seems like a lot. If a student could do all that, they should be able to rectify their behavior on their own. But it is self-monitoring. But self-monitoring can also recognize what's going on and verbally speak it or write it down or show in pictures, basically. So self-instruction students are taught a set of statements related to the task that they recite to themselves when in certain situations. So like a woosah, I must keep calm. That's what I think of when I think of that. This process is initiated first through models provided by the teacher. The learner then practices the self-instruction sequence through overt verbalization. As acquisition occurs, the learner gradually replaces the overt verbalization with quiet speech, followed by whispers, until eventually. I guess you couldn't hear that last part. After the quiet speech, followed by whispers, until eventually these become covert speech. We have self-reinforcement, rewarding yourself for a job well done. A lot of people do that when they're losing weight. They hit it, which is funny. They lose weight and then they celebrate by going out to have drinks and eat. Craziest thing. That's adults. Children probably the same way. You can do that with candy for them. For those who like to eat candy, that's self-reinforcement. So yeah, you're just rewarding yourself for a job well done, basically. Differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, DRA, is a productive designed to increase the frequency of a desirable behavior and to reduce challenging behavior through the delivery of reinforcement for positive alternative behavior. So basically, we're going to amp up what you're doing right, and we're going to tone down what you're not doing right. So basically, what you want to do is you want to frequently increase the desirable behaviors, and then that should reduce the bad behavior. In summary, it is important to remember that positive reinforcement behaviors should do the following: ideally serve the same function as a target behavior, facilitate the desired outcome for the learner within a positive context, be efficient in meeting the needs of the student, as this is essential for promoting acquisition of the replacement skills, be systematically taught to the learner using direct instruction methods. Some examples of positive replacement behaviors are you have the target behavior. Okay, they getting out of the seat, trying to avoid the work. So that functioning is basically they function trying to escape. So if they want to get up, move around, do all that stuff, the replacement behavior is to have the student raise their hand until the teacher recognizes it, and have the teacher assist in following a short break on completion of the task. That'd be one way to replace that target, behavior. Now I'm gonna play a short video, 2-minute video for you, Strategies for Effective Behavioral Intervention by Greg Foster.
Everyone exhibits behaviours, good and bad. But a behaviour is not intrinsically good or bad. All behaviour is communication. We tend to judge people by their disposition, body language and attitudes. We judge them by their behaviour. Through their behaviour, they are telling us how they feel. Remember that a person seeking attention is more likely to use inappropriate behaviour because it will achieve immediate attention, whereas appropriate behaviour probably won't. So remember to stop and listen to what their behaviour is telling you. Don't chastise or criticise them for the behaviour. Don't make a fuss about it. Don't even mention it. Calmly show them a more appropriate way of conveying their feelings. Don't forget to give praise for appropriate behaviour. This will help ensure its reoccurrence. Here's the strategy. Learn to recognise the triggers and avoid situations where the unwanted behaviour is likely to occur. Ignore the behaviour if possible. If the person is endangering himself or others or destroying property, don't ignore it, but deal with it calmly. Don't mention the unwanted behaviour. Stay calm and redirect the person to a more appropriate activity. Don't forget to reward the appropriate behaviour. Giving praise may be all the attention required to help ensure the preferred behaviour continues. Avoid, ignore, redirect, and reward. This may not work immediately, it may even escalate temporarily, but be calm, be patient, and above all, be consistent, and it will work eventually.
Welcome back. In closing, I want you to consider this. When selecting replacement behaviors, remember that they should serve the same function as the problem behavior, yet they should be in a socially acceptable form, and consideration should be given to the efficiency of replacement behaviors in addressing the needs of the individual. That is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some nuggets from it. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.